Okay, your bestie was sick and comes to you for help. He or she is confused when graphing the portion of the chapter, so please help him or her with the following questions. So the first thing I would do when I'm solving this problem is I would make sure that this is reduced or factored as much as I can, so I have x plus 2 over x plus 3 left. Okay, how do you find your zeros? You're going to set the numerator equal to 0. And to do that, I look at my numerator right here, and I'm like, x plus 2 equals 0, so x cannot equal negative 2. So I put negative 2 there. How do you find your wholes? You set the expression equal to 0. That was canceled. Or set canceled portion equal to 0. So I look up here, and I'm like, oh, this is the part that canceled. So I set it equal to 0 to find my x, and that would be 15. Then to find my y portion, I substitute 15 in here, and I'd get 17 over 18. I'll write that a little bit better. How do you find the vertical asymptote? You set denominator equal to 0. So I look at my denominator, which is right here, and I set it equal to 0, and that would be negative 3. So x equals negative 3. When finding the horizontal asymptote, n is the degree of the numerator, and d is the degree of the denominator. Okay, so if n is greater, when you look at the degrees, if n is greater than or less than the denominator, then y equals 0. If they're equal, then it's the ratio of the coefficients. And if n is greater than d, then y does not equal anything. It is a none. There is no horizontal asymptote. So for this problem, what is the horizontal asymptote? It is, if we look at our degrees, they are the same. So it's 1 over 1, so y equals 1. Alright, moving up to our first problem. We're going to try to graph this. And for our first problem, n is, if I look at my degrees, the numerator degree, there isn't one, or it's 0, over this degree, which is 1, so 0 over 1. The top is smaller than the bottom, and when the top is smaller than the bottom, then the horizontal asymptote is 0. So I put dotted line here. Vertical asymptote comes from the numerator or the denominator, set that equal to 0. So when I do that, I look at my denominator and I set that equal to 0, and that would be 4. So x equals 4. So I'm going to put dots on it where x equals 4. And then my wholes, that's where things cancel. Well, nothing canceled up here, so that would be none. There are no wholes. And zeros, I always make sure it's something, comma, 0. And since my numerator is just 1, right here, there will be no zeros. Because I can't set, if I set 1 equal to 0, it's not possible. So, none. So when I graph this, I need to use a t-chart because I need some more points. X and Y. And I find that I like to look at my vertical asymptote and have that in the middle, so then I have 2 less and 2 greater than that. So when I substitute 2 in up here, I have 1 over 2 minus 4, so that'd be 1 over negative 2. And when I substitute 3 in, I have 1 over 3 minus 4, which is 1 over negative 1, so that's negative 1. If I substitute 5 in, it's 1 over 1, which is 1. And if I substitute 6 in, it is 1 over 2, so 1/2. So I'm going to plot those. I go over 2, down 1/2. That's going to be hard. And 3, negative 1 over 3, down negative 1. 5, 1, I go up right there, and 6.5 is right there. So it's hard to do on here. Whoops. That's better. And this one, it's really close to those lines. Okay, and looking at number 19. So when I do this one, I'm looking at my horizontal slope, and it's n is equal to d. So because my numerators are equal to the denominators. So when I have that, y equals 1. And looking at my vertical asymptote, I have, I look at my denominator, and before I do that, I forgot to factor this. So I have x minus 2 and x minus 1 all over x times x minus 1. So my x minus 1s are going to cancel. So my vertical asymptote is x equals 0. So x right there equals 0. Because I take my denominator here and I set it equal to 0. And then I have my holes. The holes is where my numbers cancel. So x equals 1. 1, and I fill it in right up here. So 1 minus 2 is negative 1 over 1, which is negative 1. And my zeros, I'm going to see what I have here. That is my numerator set equal to 0, and x minus 2 up here is my numerator. So that would be 2. So I'm going to graph my horizontal asymptote, which is at 1, and my vertical, which is at 0. And then I plot my points, 1, negative 1. Oh, that's a hole, so that needs to be an open circle, and 2, 0, which is right here. So I can graph that one. But I need to graph 2 on the other side. So I like to do, again, my x, my y, and I'm going to do my vertical asymptote, which is 0, and I'm going to do 2 that are less than that, because I need 2 on this side of 0 for my x's, so I put negative 2 here. So if I fill in negative 2 up here, negative 2 minus 2 is negative 4 over negative 2 would be 2. And when I fill in negative 1, I get 3. So I have negative 2, 2, right there, and negative 1, 3. So I draw that line right there.